With the new My Lowe's Pro Rewards American Express card, earn 3 points per dollar spent on Lowe's qualifying purchases for the first 6 months after card account opening. Plus, save 5% every day on eligible purchases at Lowe's and earn points on eligible purchases everywhere else Amex is accepted. Card members get more at Lowe's. Subject to credit approval. 5% can't be combined with any other offer. Exclusions and restrictions apply. Points subject to loyalty terms at Lowe's.com/terms and credit reward terms at Synchrony.com/MLPRA-terms. Visit Lowe's.com/business credit.
Some of the most damaging relationships are the hardest ones to explain, and they don't have to look extreme in order to be deeply harmful. Welcome to the Covert Narcissism Podcast, where we make sense of what never quite made sense. If you've been listening for a while, you may already understand what's happening in your relationship. You can see the patterns, you can name the behaviors, but maybe you still feel stuck in the same cycle. This is where coaching comes in. It's not about learning more, it's about having the support to finally apply what you already know and begin moving forward. You need a coach. If you're ready for that next step, I invite you to join me in my coaching program. You can learn more about it at covertnarcissism.com. Today we're doing something a little bit different. I want to talk about a song that I heard by Taylor Swift called Dear John. This is one of those songs that people either listen to casually and they just kind of know it or hear it and sing along with it, or they feel it deeply in their bones. If you've ever been in a relationship with someone who has covert narcissistic tendencies, you're probably in that later category, feeling it deeply in your bones. And if you're not, you need to take a minute and really hear the words of this song. It is an incredibly accurate musical portrayal of narcissistic manipulation. Now, what makes this song so powerful for our conversation is that what it captures about the experience from the inside is so real. Not the big dramatic moments, not the obvious red flags, but the slow, quiet unraveling of a person who started out trusting, started out optimistic and full of hope, like so many of us did, and ended up walking on eggshells, doubting your own mind, blaming yourself for someone else's behavior. This sounds familiar, right? The first The first line of the song really jumped out at me. Long were the nights when my days once revolved around you. Well, that had me hooked right there. Right off the bat, she's naming something that so many people in these relationships experience, but we rarely say it out loud. Your entire life starts to orbit around this other person. Not because you chose to lose yourself, but because the relationship demanded it. Their mood sets the tone for the day. Their needs come first. Whether they were happy or unhappy determined whether you could relax or you had to brace yourself. You were constantly reading the room, adjusting yourself, and preparing. That's not love. That's hypervigilance. It's one of the most common experiences that people describe when they've been in a relationship with a covert narcissist. You stop living your own life and start managing theirs. And when you do, the nights get long. Why? Because out of sheer exhaustion and the inability to relax while laying in your own bed, your nights just no longer feel rested because they no longer feel safe. Now, the very next line, counting my footsteps, praying the floor won't fall through again. Well, this image is precise. Counting footsteps, moving carefully, watching where you step because the wrong move could set everything off. Now, this could mean walking through the house, such as counting your steps to make sure you miss the squeaky floorboard, trying not to draw attention to yourself in order to stay off their radar. Or it could be a little more symbolic, and it's referring to walking on eggshells, an image that portrays walking on something so incredibly fragile without breaking it. This is one of the defining experiences of being with someone who is emotionally unpredictable. I didn't know I was doing it, but I was. I had heard the phrase, but I didn't really know what it meant. I figured it didn't relate to me. Until one day, I described how I was monitoring my words and working so hard to not upset him, and my friend said to me, "Oh, you're walking on eggshells." Whoa, a major light bulb went off, and I went, "That's what the phrase means?" Well, yeah, I've been doing that. This was very familiar territory. So you learn over time to make yourself smaller, to speak carefully, to soften your tone, choose your words, time your questions. You develop a kind of sixth sense for their mood because getting it wrong has consequences. The floor drops out from beneath you. So, through enough of these outlandish floor drops, your nervous system learns to stay on alert. This is counting your steps. It's not a personality flaw, it's a survival response. Now let's move on to the next line. My mother accused me of losing my mind, but I swore I was fine. Now, this line I could actually see looking at in one of two ways, and both are worth talking about here. Sometimes the people who love you can see the harm clearly. They watch it happen, they watch you change, they notice that you aren't yourself, they might even see that you're walking on eggshells. Sometimes they'll speak up and say something, but you're not in a position ready to hear it, so you defend your partner, you defend their actions and their behaviors, and you insist that you're fine. The people around you can't understand why you're staying, why you keep explaining away the behavior, and why you seem to be shrinking. But you keep defending them and making them look better than they actually are. So eventually, what happens is you pull away from these people because being around people who see it makes it a whole lot harder to pretend like everything is fine. Your mother or any other friend or family member will accuse you of losing your mind, but you're insisting, "No, I'm fine." Now, sometimes it goes the other direction entirely. The people closest to you, they actually think your partner is wonderful, charming, generous, attentive, helpful. They see the public version, the one that is carefully crafted and maintained. And they can't reconcile that version with what you're trying to describe. So when you do speak up, you're met with confusion. I don't see it. They seem like such a great person. Are you sure? And suddenly, you're the problem. You start wondering what is wrong with you, that you can't just appreciate this person that everyone else seems to love. Again, those around you accuse you of losing your mind. You're not seeing things right, and you're trying to tell them, but I'm fine. I'm not the problem here. Both of these experiences are forms of isolation, and both are extremely common in covert narcissistic dynamics, because covert narcissism specifically lives in the gap between the public face and the private reality. In the first scenario, you dismiss the people around you because you've become convinced that they're a good person. And in the second, the people around you dismiss you because they've become convinced they're a good person. Either way, you end up alone. You end up assuring everyone that you're fine, including yourself, when you're really not. I want to say something directly to anyone who's in either of these places right now. Your experience is real, whether the people around you can see it or not. The fact that it's hard to explain does not mean it isn't happening. And the fact that they seem like a good person to everyone else is not evidence that you are wrong. You have nothing to prove to anyone, nothing to defend, nothing to explain. Now let's go on in the song. You paint me a blue sky and go back and turn it to rain. And I lived in your chess game, but you changed the rules every day. Now, this might be the most precise description of covert narcissistic behavior in the entire song. The blue sky that becomes rain, the rules that change every day. This is the experience of being with somebody who is fundamentally inconsistent. Not because they're confused, but because the inconsistency serves them. Think about that. The rules shift to fit whatever needs or desires they have at the time. It's all about them, and they can shift multiple times within the same single conversation. Well, when the rules keep changing, you're the one that's knocked off balance. You're the one that can never quite get it right. And when you can never get it right, what do? You keep trying harder. Well, this keeps you focused on them. Well, this is what they want in the first place. You make them the center of all your attention, like a giant puzzle that you can never stop trying to solve. This is like a chess game, just like she says in the song, but you didn't know you were playing, and they've been keeping score the whole time, and they keep changing the rules. This is why so many people in these relationships describe feeling confused and exhausted in kind of equal measure. They're kind of on equal footing here. It's not that anything dramatically terrible happened, at least often that's the case. It's that nothing was ever stable. You can never actually relax. You can never trust that the good moments were actually good moments and that they would last. Just like the blue sky that they turn to rain, you can always trust that that good moment will turn bad. Now, the next line is wondering which version of you I might get on the phone tonight. Boy, I can relate to that one. And then she goes on and says, well, I stopped picking up. And this song is to let you know why. Well, the wondering which version you might get. I know you can relate to that. Not knowing before you even answer the phone whether you're going to get the warm version or the cold one, the charming version or the cutting one. So you sit with your phone in your hand and you pause. You do a calculation. How am I feeling today? Do I have the energy for this? What mood are they in? Can I handle it if it goes badly? And all of that happens before you even decide whether to pick it up or not. That hypervigilance, that constant reading and predicting and preparing is one of the most draining things about the entire relationship. From the outside, it looks like a simple phone call. And sometimes it might actually be that and be a nothing, and then you wonder why you were so worked up about it in the first place. But on the inside, you're doing an emotional risk assessment, preparing for the worst, because too often that's where it goes. Well, over time, what happens? You stop picking up. You stop showing up for the relationship. You reach the point where the relief of not answering or of not speaking to them outweighs the stress of dealing with them. And this is actually a very significant moment. It is the beginning of choosing yourself. Taylor Swift doesn't frame it as a dramatic exit. She frames it quietly. I stopped picking up, and here is why. That quiet is important for a lot of people. Leaving does not look like some big confrontation. It looks like slowly, finally, putting the phone down. Now she heads into the Dear John section. Dear John, I see it all now that you're gone. Well, this might be the most important line in the entire song, and it's only 9 words, because this is the thing about covert narcissistic relationships that makes them so uniquely disorienting. You often cannot see clearly while you are inside of them. It's not a failure of intelligence. It's not weakness. It's that these relationships are specifically structured in a way that clouds your vision. The intermittent warmth, the constant criticism that keeps you doubting yourself, the gaslighting and the moving the goalpost, but more intermittent warmth. All of it works together to keep you confused enough that clarity stays just out of your reach. You can feel that something is wrong, sure, but you can't quite tell what it is. You can't quite see the whole picture. And then you leave, or it ends, or maybe even you just get a break and a couple weeks away for whatever reason, and the fog starts to lift a little bit. Often it doesn't happen immediately. Sometimes it can take weeks or months before you can look back and see the full shape of what was happening. But at some point, there is a moment, and almost everyone I work with describes this moment, where it suddenly comes into focus. Like you're focusing the camera and all of a sudden it clicks. You see the pattern clearly, maybe for the first time. This is where you think, oh, that's what this was. Really? That's why I felt this way. That's what was happening underneath all of this. That moment feels like amazing relief because finally it makes sense and finally you have words for it. But it's also grief at the same time. Relief because you weren't crazy, and you're not alone. What you felt was real. The thing you couldn't quite name was real. But grief because now you see how much you gave, how long you stayed, how many times you explained it away. And part of that grief is for who you were before. The version of yourself that trusted, that was vulnerable and open, but you got handed something that slowly, quietly cost you more than you knew you were spending. I see it all now that you're gone. That sentence is both an ending and a beginning. It is the moment where the story stops being about him and starts being about her, about what she now knows, about what she can now trust in herself, and what she will do with that clarity going forward. And that is ultimately what healing looks like. Not forgetting, not erasing, no, but seeing it clearly, calling it what it was, and choosing to build something different now with what you know. The next line is, "Don't you think I was too young to be messed with?" The girl in the dress cried the whole way home. Now, I had to think about this line for a minute. And I want to say that I don't think this is always talking about age. This isn't necessarily an age thing. One of the patterns that we see repeatedly in covert narcissistic relationships is the targeting of people who, in some way, are more vulnerable, more trusting, more open, or even more naive at the time. Maybe younger, yes, but maybe less experienced. Maybe in a tough transition in life, going through something hard, maybe new to a place or community, or maybe just left a hard relationship. This isn't always about age, it's about where you were when you met them. Were you at a low point? Were you new somewhere and lonely? Were you healing from something else? Were you particularly vulnerable and trusting at that time in your life? Covert narcissists are often very good at reading people. They can identify eagerness, openness, longing, vulnerability, and they move toward it. Not always because they consciously plot it out, but because attention and admiration is what they need, and so they instinctively seek out people who are positioned to give it. You weren't weak for being vulnerable. You were human. And it isn't your fault that your vulnerability was used against you. Now, I really like the next line. Well, I don't like it, but I hear it a lot. I should have known. She says this, and I want to gently push back on it a little bit. I do hear this from a lot of the people I work with, almost everyone I work with. I should have known. I should have seen it. I should have left sooner. I should have listened when people warned me. And here's what I want you to hear. Covert narcissism is called covert for a reason. It is designed to be hard to see. These people are good at what they do, and they've been manipulating others for a very long time. The behaviors that they hide the manipulation behind, the charm, the intermittent warmth, the just enough moments of connection, this makes it incredibly difficult to identify from the inside. You didn't miss something obvious. You trusted someone who presented themselves as trustworthy. That's not a failure of judgment. That's what happens when someone skilled at manipulation targets someone who is open and loving. The "I should have known" line is one of the heaviest things that my clients carry, and one of the most important pieces of work that we do together is setting that down. Now, the song goes on, well, maybe it's me and my blind optimism to blame, or maybe it's you and your sick need to give love, then take it away. Now, I want to look at this word maybe because that word is doing a whole lot of work here. And I think it's very intentional on her part. She doesn't come in with certainty. No, she comes in with maybe. And that hesitation is so honest because it's exactly where most people live for a really long time inside these relationships. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I'm too naive. Maybe I'm too optimistic. Maybe I'm too hopeful. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe if I were different, easier, less needy, more patient, maybe then it would work. The self-doubt is the first place that the mind goes because that's what's been reinforced over and over. When something goes wrong, Your instinct, which is trained into you, is to look inward first. And besides, it's easier to change ourselves than to change them. So I certainly don't blame you for trying to be more perfect for them. That's the first place where almost everybody turned, is to look at, maybe it's me. But then she pivots, and that pivot is huge. That pivot is where people start getting their eyes open. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's your sick need to give love and then take it away. That is a precise description of the intermittent reinforcement cycle of covert narcissism. This is not someone who never showed love. No. This is someone who gave it, real, warm, believable, and then withdrew it. Deliberately or not, the effect is still the same. You spend the whole relationship chasing the version of them that loved you, trying to get back to that, doing whatever it takes to bring that person back. And that chase keeps you hooked. She goes on in the song and says, "You'll add my name to your long list of traitors who don't understand." When you finally leave, or when the relationship ends, what happens? In a healthy relationship, there's grief on both sides, and usually some acknowledgement that things didn't work out. But with a covert narcissist, no, it often looks very different. You become a traitor, someone who didn't understand them, someone who gave up, people who failed them, people who hurt them. That reframing where they are always the one who was wronged, always the one who was abandoned, always the one who was misunderstood, is a hallmark of narcissistic thinking. It protects their ego from ever having to absorb accountability. Everyone who left becomes a traitor, and you will be added to that list as well. Now, this realization can be both clarifying and heartbreaking. Clarifying because it confirms what you suspected, that this wasn't about you. This is a pattern that they've been living. Heartbreaking because you can now see how long this has been happening and how little it had to do with anything you did or didn't do. And finally, she says, "And I'll look back and regret how I ignored when they said run as fast as you can." At least a few of the people around her saw it. They told her. She didn't listen. Maybe that was in the beginning of the relationship. Maybe it was in the middle. Maybe it was near the end. I don't know. And in the song, she's not even fully blaming herself for this. She's just naming it, clearly stating it as part of the whole picture. Because that's what healing looks like. Not punishing yourself for what you didn't see, but being able to be honest about the full story. People warned her. She stayed anyways. And now she understands why they said what they said. If you have people in your life who have said something similar to you, who have looked worried, who have pulled you aside and said, "I don't know about this one," I want you to hold on to this story, this part of the story. You don't need to act on it today, but please don't add it to the pile of things that you're ignoring or burying or blaming yourself for. Now we shift into the final section of this song. You are an expert at sorry and keeping lines blurry. An expert at sorry does not mean someone who genuinely apologizes. It means someone who has just learned that the word sorry is a tool. It ends the argument. It resets the cycle. It gives you just enough to hold on to so you don't leave. But it's not followed by change. It's followed by the same behavior and then another sorry and then the same behavior again and then another sorry, and it's a pattern. And keeping the lines blurry? This is how accountability never quite lands. Was it a joke or was it serious? Did they mean that or were they just tired? Was that a promise or just something they said? The lines are always blurry just enough that you can't quite hold on to anything. And when you try, somehow you're the one who's wrong or being unreasonable or misunderstood them. This lines being blurry keeps them from ever having to be accountable. I've said before that it's like they always have a back door. They always have a reason, an excuse that gets them off the hot seat. Now let's continue. Never impressed by me acing your test. Now this line is quiet, but it's devastating. You worked so hard to get everything on the test right. You aced it. To be enough, to meet the standard. And even when you did, Even when you cleared every hurdle, you anticipated every need, you performed perfectly, guess what? It still wasn't enough. There was no acknowledgement, no impression made, just the next expectation, the next test. This is one of the cruelest aspects of a covert narcissistic dynamic. The standard is designed to be unachievable. Because if you ever fully arrived, if you ever were truly enough, they can't handle that. It isn't what they're after. The goal is not for you to succeed. The goal is for you to keep trying to succeed, because that's when you pour all your effort into them. So they must keep moving the goalposts so that you will keep putting in the effort. And so you try and you try and you pour more of yourself in and you work harder and you wonder what is wrong with you, that no matter how much you give, it's never quite enough. Nothing is wrong with you. This game is rigged. She goes on to say, all the girls that you've run dry have tired, lifeless eyes because you burned them out. Now, that first image, tired, lifeless eyes. If you've ever come out of a long narcissistic relationship, you may know exactly what this looks like. If you've ever watched somebody to go through it, you know exactly what this looks like. Not just emotional exhaustion, something far deeper, a kind of depletion that goes all the way down to your core, where the light that used to be there has just quietly gone out and it doesn't exist anymore. In fact, it's like a vacuum inside you. People who knew you before sometimes struggle to name what's different. You're still functioning, you're still showing up. In fact, you're probably still telling them that you're fine, but something behind your eyes has dimmed. That is what getting run dry looks like. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly over time as you pour and pour everything you have into something that will never fill. Eventually, you look up and realize there's nothing left to give. And she says that it isn't just her, there are others, all the girls, a pattern. This goes back to what we talked about earlier. The long list of traitors, a history of people, but they were left depleted in the wake. Her next line is, but I took your matches before fire could catch me. So don't look now. The tone shifts completely here. And this is a part that I love. But I took your matches before fire could catch me. She got out before she was fully burned. She saw enough, felt enough, understood enough, and she moved. And the so don't look now, it's quiet, it's devastating, it's a little bit defiant. It's not a dramatic goodbye, it's a turning away, a refusal to give him even the satisfaction of looking back. This is a woman who has reclaimed something. Not everything immediately. Healing is a process, not a moment, but something very fundamental. The decision that she will not be the next set of tired, lifeless eyes any longer. I want to offer this to anyone listening who feels like they are already too burned, like the fire did catch you, like you're already somewhere in that depleted, hollowed out place. I know that place. I've been there. I've been that puddle on the floor that I thought I can't even lift my head. I couldn't function. You are not alone. And that fire within you, it still burns. It may be embers right now, but it will return. There is life after narcissism. Finally, we get to the ending. I'm shining like fireworks over your sad, empty town. I love that this is where the song lands. Not in bitterness, not in devastation, in clarity and empowerment. She can see him now for who he is, and it's a sad, empty town, and she is the fireworks. Brilliant, alive, and free. That image matters because one of the things narcissistic relationships do is convince you that you are the problem, that you are too much, not enough, or fundamentally difficult to love. And when you finally get out, when you finally get enough distance to see clearly, you realize it was never true. You were always the fireworks. You just couldn't see that from inside the town. But now, it's time to soar. And I want to close with this. Dear John is not just a breakup song. It's a song about reclaiming your narrative. The whole structure of the song is a letter written to him, but really for her. It's her putting language to an experience that probably didn't make sense while she was living it, but she can see it now. That is exactly what healing from a covert narcissistic relationship looks like. It's not one dramatic moment of clarity. It's slowly finding the words, learning to trust your own memory again, understanding that what happened to you was real, even if it was hard to explain. It is time for you to shine like fireworks. Go find this song and enjoy it. This song was written for you. Whether you're still in your relationship, just getting out, or trying to figure out which way is right and you're still in or maybe wanting to stay in, it's okay. Maybe you're just trying to make sense of something even that happened years ago. We are all in so many different places on this journey. But I want you to know that what you are experiencing is real, and you do deserve support in working through it. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. If you've been listening for a while, you may already understand what's happening in your relationship. You can see the patterns, you can name the behaviors, but maybe you still feel stuck in the same cycle. This is where coaching comes in. It's not about learning more. It's about having the support to finally apply what you already know and begin to move forward. If you're ready for that next step, I invite you to join me in my coaching program. You can learn more about it at covertnarcissism.com. Your story matters, and you deserve to be heard without judgment. Check out my coaching services at my website, again, covertnarcissism.com. And don't forget to subscribe, to thumbs up, to follow, to like this podcast so that you can get more empowering episodes like this one, and to help us continue spreading the word so that our community can continue to grow. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson, Covert Narcissism Podcast, and CNG Life Coaching is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes and not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a healthcare provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. Renee shares stories from her personal experience as well as from those she has talked with for several years. Her material does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support any allegation or support a claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of this material and information provided.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.